had the pleasure of interviewing Tony Cottee for our Patreon channel. Don't worry, I've cut a 10-minute segment out of it, a good segment, mind you, which I'm going to play for you now, so you don't have to be signed up to Patreon to watch this bit. However, Tony's a great guy. He was only scheduled to come on for 30 minutes, but we ended up chatting for 48 minutes. So all the rest of it, if you want the full 48-minute interview, you have to go over onto our Patreon, which is patreon.com/hammerschat. The link is in the description below here, and you can watch the whole lot of the interview. Good interview. Say good interview. It was me doing the interview. A bit boastful that may be, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. We discussed Pi Capital. We discussed him leaving West Ham, joining Everton. We discussed the best players he's ever played against. We discussed a lot of the new players. We discussed the signings. There's a lot of stuff that we talk about in there. Not my questions. The questions are put to him by our patrons, because once a month on Patreon we get a special guest in. This month it was Tony Cottee. Last month it was Tony Carr. Next month it's Ian Bishop. So if you want to ask Ian Bishop some questions, then you better get signed up to Patreon, because he's going to be our August guest. We do this every month. It's one of the many reasons to join Patreon. There's another good reason to join Patreon. That's for this month. It's free. I've got that edge. You might not have seen the video yesterday. It's free. Basically, if you get to the end of the month, you don't like it, and you ask for your money back, we'll give you your money back. Can't say fairer than that. We're just trying to entice you over, dangle the carrot a little bit. In this section of the interview, Tony's talking about the current West Ham team, where we can finish this season, elaborating on some signings as well, a couple of things that may well impact where we finish this season, and really importantly, particularly bearing in mind it's today or Tuesday as I release this video, the importance of us being ready for the Europa Conference League and the playoff finals. The playoffs that get you through to the league stage. I keep forgetting, we're not really even technically in the Conference League yet. You have to play a playoff to get through to the league. So, Tony makes a really good point about that. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy the interview. But let's just elaborate on that just a little bit. Let's say we do get 2 more good signings. That's just whatever. Signings that are first team quality. You'd suggest Skamaka's first team quality, Agurd is first team quality, probably Downs is more of a squad player. If we were to get 2 more players that can contest first team places, where do you think we could finish?
I think it's a difficult one to answer, because there's a lot of things that are going to come into play. I mean, as we know, we've got our playoff, the Conference League playoff. I'm one of these people. I want us to win the playoff. I don't want us doing what we did against Astragugu or whatever it was called a few years ago, where we didn't bother, we didn't try, we didn't play our first team, and we lost twice to them. I don't think Moyes will do that. I think he will take it seriously. I think we'll get through the playoffs. You're then into 6 group games in the Europa Conference League, which again puts pressure on the squad. The other thing to factor in is that I think it's going to be a very competitive Premier League this year. I mean, if you look at the usual suspects up the top, you've got Liverpool, Man City, the 3 London clubs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs. Manchester United should do better. Newcastle got lots of money. Leicester won't have the injuries they had last year. So I've already named 8 clubs that are going to compete to get in that top 6. It makes it very difficult. And with West Ham, if they're managing a European campaign like they did last season, it puts strain on the squad. So I don't know. I think, honestly, they'll finish probably about 9th, maybe 10th. I think a top 10 finish. I mean, ultimately, we should be a top 10 club now. We should every season we should finish in the top 10. Yeah, of course, if you have a good season like the last 2 seasons, you can push on. But we'll have to wait and see how we handle the Conference League if we're in it, and we'll have to wait and see what goes on with the other clubs. And of course, another massive factor as well, Gonzo, is the World Cup. Now, how to affect what's going on? And I don't know. There's an argument for clubs that are got lots of players. I know, say Man City, for example. Everyone's an international, so most of them are going to be going to the World Cup. They're going to be ticking over, etc. West Ham, maybe 5 or 6 are going to go to the World Cup, which is great for Declan, Jared, whoever's going to the World Cup, obviously. What about the other 20 players? What do they do? Because the last Premier League game's on the 12th of November, and the next one's on the 26th of December. So it's about 6 or 7 weeks. So, all right, they can have a nice little holiday. Yeah. But you're then going into doing a mini pre-season, but you're still going to be behind the players that have been playing in the World Cup. So is that going to favour the top teams? I don't know. There's so much. It's going to be a really interesting, strange unique season, because I don't think after what's going to happen this year, I don't think they'll ever let a World Cup go on in the winter again, because it's been absolute chaos for many, many reasons. But I think that will have an impact as well. So it's a tough question. I know I've waffled on a bit. It's a tough question to answer, but I think I've done my predictions because I've got to do something when I finish with you. I'll put West Ham down as 9th, and I'll be happy with that if we do well in the cups, because I think that's important. You know, I like us doing well in the cups. If we're going to finish mid-table, that's fine. But let's have a go in the League Cup. Let's have a go in the FA Cup. Let's have a go in the Conference League, and then I don't mind finishing mid-table.
Just before we go, one bigger question, one small one. I just would like to tap into what happens when a player signs. What I'm talking about here is because as fans, we can only look at what happens. We don't get an insight of what happens on the training ground. But I've always thought for quite some time that there must be an uplift in terms of the current playing squad when a player joins that first training session. So, for instance, let's give the example of Scamacca. When Scamacca first comes in, all the players look at him first training session. Can he finish? How good is he? What sort of a buzz does that create? Obviously not if he's going to take your place, but just generally around a squad when a new player or a big signing comes in.
Well, we had obviously signings over the years at West Ham, not real sort of massive signings. When I went to Everton, obviously I was the record signing, and it's quite a funny story actually. So the first day of training, bearing in mind, I think the other lads have been trained about 3 or 4 days more than me, which doesn't sound a lot, but it just meant there was a little bit more on their feet than what I was. And we was doing a 5-a-side or something, and I literally tripped over my feet where my legs were. I had sort of jelly legs, and I just tripped over, fell flat on my face, and that no one near me. And Kevin Ratcliffe, the Everton captain, piped up, "How much did we pay for him?
Oh, no.
What an investment that was." So, it's you want to impress. Scamacca's going to want to impress, and it gives the squad a buzz as well, especially if they can see him in training. I've heard good things about him. The clips I've seen, he looks like potentially, it's the word potentially, it potentially could be a good signing for us. But I think if the lads see him in training, holding the ball up, bringing others in, scoring goals, and that of course it gives everyone a lift. And someone like Deck as well, because obviously we all want to keep Declan Rice at the football club. Now, how do you keep Declan at the football club? He's got to like the signings that are coming in, because he's got to play with them. Yeah, of course you want to try and get in the Champions League. If West Ham get in the Champions League at the end of this season, Declan won't leave. We know that, because he'll have Champions League football, but it's going to be very, very difficult. So in the meantime, you've got to keep trying to improve the squad and keep saying to Declan, "Look, there you go, Scamacca's arrived. He's arrived, whoever it might be," and then you give the squad a lift as well. And also, as I said earlier, back with Antonio, it gives other players a lift, and you respond to it. Because if you sulk about it, all right, he's a centre forward, he's probably going to start against Man City. But if you sulk about it, then that's no good to you. It's no good to the squad. You've got to respond to it, and you've got to up your game. And I think that's what it'll do. So it might work for Antonio as much as it'll work for Scamacca. But yeah, your point is, if you get new signings, it does help. It does give the squad a lift, a buzz. And as I say, if we can get 3 or 4 more signings in, that will help the mood of the squad as well, because the squad, they'll know it's quite light in numbers, so you need more players in.
How many do you think we need?
3 or 4, which is what the club are looking at. If we get 3 or 4 more in, then what was a light squad last year it then becomes a good squad. And we've got good players. We have got good players. Yeah. So we're not far away. But if we don't get 3 or 4 players in, then you can say, well, we're where we were last year. And if we're in the Europe, as I said, you're Thursday, Sunday. It's a big ask for the squad to take that on.
Well, he's got to want to use who's on the bench. I think that's the other thing. I think we'd often have a lot of players on the bench last season, but Moyes would always go to the same 1 or 2. So I think it's a case of expanding when he looks on the bench and thinking, actually, I would like to bring him on because I've signed him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what happens. It shouldn't work this way, but sometimes it does. If a manager hasn't signed that particular player, they might not fancy him, and then as a result, you look on the bench and you think, "Oh no, I won't put him on because he's not one of mine. I'll put so and so on. I know what I'm going to get, etc." Yeah. And it does work that way. So yeah, if Moyes can get 3 or 4 of his own boys in, even if they're 3 or 4 boys that are going to sit on the bench to start with, at least he's got options. Because I think at times last season, I think I don't like criticising the manager because I think he's done a fantastic job. But I just think in terms of the substitutions and the use of the squad, I think we would all agree there could have been a little bit more wheeler dealing and getting players on and off the field of play. I think that would possibly have helped the squad a little bit. But
and more substitutes, Tony, this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we was amongst the lowest substitutes, and that's fine if the results are going for you. If the team's playing well and the results are going, I get it. Pick the same team, get on with it. I understand that. But if you have little blips and it's not going so well, then you've got to look to rotate.
No, absolutely, mate. Right. Well, listen. One final question. On a pizza. We've got to know this. The chat need to know. There is a correct answer and there is a wrong answer. So you're well on the spot here. Barbecue sauce or tomato sauce as the base on a pizza?
On a pizza?
On a pizza.
Yeah. Oh, tomato sauce.
Of course. See, chat, people.
But it's all about the toppings, though, isn't it? Surely it's about the toppings.
Well, I know. Well, this is what. Look, whatever. Look, you put your cheese on. You put whatever your pepperoni, your ham, whatever. All the stuff. That's fine. But some people don't have tomato. They have barbecue sauce.
I've never even heard of that, Gonzo. Honestly, I've never had a pizza with barbecue. So it was only ever going to be one answer from me, wasn't there?
Quite right too. And nor should you have a pizza with barbecue sauce on it. That was the correct answer, Tony. But this is the thing. Sometimes you get people who just don't have any taste or class at all. I'm joking. Kerry's very nice. Tony, listen, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I love talking to you. I really do. You're really a great guy. Thank you. You're only scheduled to do half an hour, mate. You've come on. We've done 47 minutes. Hopefully, the patrons appreciate that. If I've missed out some questions, got some stuff wrong, I do appreciate it. But hopefully, we've had a long enough interview. Tony, I've got to get you a program at some point, mate. I've got my berry program, which a few people have signed. I need you to sign my berry program. If I'm being selfish and abusing my position in this interview, I need to get that signed from you, mate.
Listen, Gonzo, I'll be at I won't be there this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm away. I say unfortunately, I shouldn't be saying that because my wife would listen to this, but I'm away with the missus at the weekend, so I won't be at the Man City game. But I've got my season ticket and I'll be going to the game. So if you see me, bring your berry program. I'll sign it for you, no problem at all.
There you go, Tony Cottee, ladies and gentlemen. Honestly, what a great guy. A really, really good sport. Look, some people you do interviews with and they'll say, don't discuss X, Y, and Z. Tony's not like that. Said discuss anything. And I even said to him before, would you like me to tell you a couple of questions? He said, no. He said, just fire away. I'd rather just answer them naturally. Really, really good guy. Massive thank you to our patrons who put the questions forwards on that. We've got some really good people coming out for the remainder of the season to interview, which obviously I'm really looking forward to doing. Ian Bishop next. Again, if you've not seen an interview with Bishop before, he is a real character. Another funny guy. We're blessed from at West Ham. We really are blessed with people of good character. Really, really good bunch of guys. And Tony is no exception. And as you saw, he's agreed to sign my programme. I mean, I've only waited since 1983. But there you go. I'll be looking forward to that. And I'll be taking him up on that offer. And Tony has said he's going to pop back later on in the season to have a chat with us as well. So that's another reason to join Hammer's Chat Patron.